Okay, so you want to own a casino, buy the building, hire some dealers, watch the chips come in, and look, on paper, this seems like the closest thing to a legal money printer that exists in the modern world. Las Vegas casinos pull in over $60 billion in gaming revenue every single year across the United States. Macau, a tiny peninsula off the coast of southern China, once generated $45 billion in a single year from gambling alone. Some casino owners become billionaires. Some of the most recognizable skylines in the world were paid for by chips, cards, and slot machines. The answer to that question is the entire point of what you are about to read, because the house edge is real. The math is airtight. And yet, the Revel Casino in Atlantic City opened in 2012, cost $2.4 billion to build, and was sold 2 years later at auction for $82.4 million. Less than 4 cents on every dollar spent. By the time we are done here, you will understand exactly where every dollar goes inside a casino, and why the biggest gamble in the building does not belong to the players. Start here, because most people get this wrong from the beginning. A casino does not sell games. Games are just the mechanism. What a casino actually sells is a feeling, and then it converts that feeling into cash. Specifically, it sells entertainment, excitement, hope, luxury, and time. That is the product. The blackjack table, the slot machine, the roulette wheel, those are just the tools that transform the customer's emotional state into a revenue stream. When someone walks onto a casino floor, they are not buying a bet. They are buying a temporary experience of possibility. They are purchasing a few hours where anything could happen. The game simply makes sure that, on average, when those hours end, the house has a little more money than when they started. Understanding this reframes everything else. The hotel, the restaurants, the concerts, the shops, none of that is decoration. All of it is part of the same machine. Every dollar a guest spends on a room or a meal extends the amount of time they spend inside the building. And time is the casino's most important raw material. Now let's talk about what it costs to get into this business. And this is where the first cold bucket of water arrives. You cannot build a serious casino for cheap. Full stop. A small regional card room in a secondary market, the kind of operation in a mid-sized American city that caters to locals, will run somewhere between $15 million and $50 million to develop. That gets you a slot floor, some basic table games, and a parking lot. No hotel, no restaurant worth mentioning. And in a secondary market, you will be competing with other regional casinos, state lotteries, and increasingly online gambling apps on every smartphone within a 50-mile radius. Step up to a real regional integrated resort, the kind with a hotel tower, a few restaurants, a conference space, and you are looking at $200 million to $600 million. American Place, a major casino development currently underway in the United States, is projecting over $300 million in capital expenditure just for its permanent facility. And if you want to build what the industry actually means when it says casino, a Las Vegas-style mega resort with multiple hotel towers, a concert venue, luxury retail, high-capacity restaurants, a convention center, and a genuine destination experience. You are starting at $1.5 billion. Marina Bay Sands in Singapore cost $5.6 billion when it opened in 2010. The expansion currently being constructed is budgeted at $8 billion more. The land premium alone on that expansion is $2 billion before a single beam is placed. Why does it cost this much? Because everything is a premium line item. The HVAC systems alone on a modern casino, the systems that keep millions of square feet of gaming floor at a constant, comfortable temperature 24 hours a day, require specialized industrial equipment that recovers and reconditions air continuously. The surveillance infrastructure involves thousands of cameras, servers, and proprietary tracking software. The hotel rooms require luxury-grade finishes. The kitchens need to produce food at scale, at speed, around the clock. You are not building a building. You are building a city that never closes. Here is the part that never appears in the headline cost of a new casino: the license. Without a gaming license, your billion-dollar building is an extremely expensive parking garage. The license is the permission slip from the government that transforms your real estate into a revenue-generating machine. And obtaining that permission is neither quick nor cheap. In New York State, which recently began accepting applications for downstate casino licenses, the application fee alone is non-refundable and set at $1 million. The minimum capital investment required to even be considered is $500 million. And the licensing fee, the payment you make to the government simply for the right to operate, is $500 million. That is before you build a single thing. Beyond the financial requirements, licensing involves years of regulatory investigation. Your finances are audited, your business history is examined. Every major investor, every senior executive, every significant vendor is subjected to background checks. Regulators are looking for any connection to organized crime, any history of financial fraud, any suggestion that the people running this operation cannot be trusted with a facility that processes hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. And once you have the license, you have to keep it. That means continuous compliance, internal audit teams, anti-money laundering programs, suspicious activity reporting, and annual regulatory fees. If you fail to maintain compliance, the government does not just fine you, they take the license. And the moment that license is gone, the building goes back to being a very expensive parking garage. Once you are open, here is how your revenue breaks down. Gaming, slot machines, table games, poker, sports betting is the core business. But in a modern integrated resort on the Las Vegas Strip, gaming now accounts for somewhere between 40 and 45% of total revenue. The rest comes from everything else. Hotel rooms generate around 18 to 20%. Restaurants and bars bring in another 18 to 20%. Entertainment, retail, conference space, and parking make up the remainder. MGM Resorts, one of the largest casino operators in the world, consistently demonstrates this balance across its Las Vegas properties. This is a crucial structural fact. A major Las Vegas casino is not primarily a gambling business anymore. It is a full-scale hospitality company that also happens to have a casino floor. And this matters because it means your profitability is exposed to multiple industries simultaneously. Hotel occupancy, food costs, entertainment ticket sales, and convention bookings all affect your bottom line, not just what happens on the gaming floor. Of the gaming revenue that does come in, the majority comes from one source that most people underestimate: slot machines. In the United States, slot machines generate between 60 and 80% of total gaming revenue across most commercial jurisdictions. Not because they are more exciting. Because of the math, a live blackjack table requires a trained dealer, a floor supervisor, a chip runner, and a pit boss. It processes roughly 80 hands per hour with 4 or 5 players. It takes up significant floor space. A slot machine requires almost no staff. It processes 600 to 720 spins per hour. It occupies a fraction of the floor space of a table, and it runs continuously, day and night, without a break. The labor cost ratio is the critical difference. Table games are staff-intensive businesses with variable cost structures. Slot floors are capital-intensive businesses with minimal labor overhead. Once the machine is paid for, it prints money, quietly, constantly, and at a predictable mathematical rate. Modern slot machines are also designed to keep players in their seats longer through a technique called losses disguised as wins. A player bets $2 across 20 pay lines. The machine pays back 60 cents on 2 of those lines. Lights flash. Music plays. The screen celebrates. The player has experienced a net loss of $1.40, but their brain registered a win. Research shows that players subjected to these outcomes significantly extend their playing time because the machine's audiovisual feedback overrides their rational accounting. The house is not just relying on mathematics. It is using the design of the experience to extend the volume of bets. And volume is how the house edge becomes real money. Here is the core engine of the entire business. Every game on a casino floor is mathematically structured so that the expected return to the house is positive over a large number of bets. This is not luck. This is arithmetic. On a European roulette wheel, there are 37 pockets, numbers 1 through 36, plus a single zero. A player bets $100 on a single number. The odds of winning are 1 in 37. The payout is 35 to 1. Run the math. The player wins $100 times 35, which is $3,500, with a probability of 1 in 37. They lose $100 with a probability of 36 in 37. The expected value of that bet is negative $2.70. That is a house edge of 2.7%. On an American wheel with a double zero, the edge rises to 5.26%. On a triple zero wheel, increasingly common in high-traffic tourist areas of Las Vegas, the edge is 7.69%. The house edge on the banker bet in Baccarat is 1.06%. The pass line in craps carries an edge of 1.41%. Blackjack, played with perfect strategy under the most player-friendly rules available, can be reduced to a house edge of 0.42%. But here is what operators have quietly been doing for years. They have been changing the rules. The most significant shift is the blackjack payout. Traditionally, a natural blackjack, being dealt an ace and a 10 value card, paid 3 to 2. A $100 bet returned $150. Thousands of casinos have now quietly switched to a 6 to 5 payout, where the same $100 bet returns only $120. That single rule change increases the house edge by 1.4%. It sounds small. Multiply it by hundreds of thousands of hands dealt every day, and it is worth tens of millions of dollars in additional revenue annually. Small advantage. Millions of bets, massive profits. At the top of the customer pyramid sits the high roller, the VIP. The person who walks into a private salon, sits down at a baccarat table, and wagers $10 million over a weekend. Casinos spend enormous amounts of money to attract these individuals. Private jet transfers, luxury villa accommodations, personal hosts available around the clock, complimentary credit lines, cashback arrangements. Some of the largest casino companies in the world fly high rollers from Asia to Las Vegas and back, absorb every expense, and consider it a marketing investment. And here is the uncomfortable truth about this segment. A single high roller on a hot streak can ruin your quarterly earnings. This is not an exaggeration. The baccarat variance at very high bet sizes mean that one player can win $20 or $30 million in a single weekend purely through statistical fluctuation. That outcome is within the normal range of variance at those stake levels. And when it happens, it shows up directly on the casino's financial statements. This is why operators in Las Vegas and Singapore use a direct credit model. They issue legal counterchecks called markers directly to the high roller, allowing them to play on credit. If the high roller wins and leaves, the casino absorbs the loss. If the high roller loses and cannot pay, the casino has a collections problem that sometimes ends up in court. In Macau, for decades, the VIP business was managed through junket operators, independent promoters who sourced wealthy Chinese players, extended credit to bypass capital controls, and collected debts. The casino paid the junket a commission of up to 1.25% of total rolling chip turnover. It worked until it did not. Beijing cracked down on capital outflows, launched corruption investigations that scared away wealthy players, and passed gaming reforms in 2022 that dismantled the junket system entirely. Overnight, Macau's VIP revenues collapsed. The high roller is the highest margin customer you have, and the highest risk one. If you have ever received a free hotel room from a casino, you were not receiving a gift. You were receiving a calculated investment. Casinos call complimentary services comps, and every comp is derived from a formula called average daily theoretical loss. Shortened to Theo in the industry, Theo is what the casino mathematically expects to win from you based on the game you play, the size of your average bet, the speed of the game, and how long you sit down. Here is a simple example. A player sits at a blackjack table, averages $30 per hand, plays for 4 hours, and the table deals 80 rounds per hour. The casino estimates a house edge of 1.75% on this player, account for basic strategy errors and participation in side bets. The calculation is $30 multiplied by 80 rounds multiplied by 4 hours multiplied by 0.0175, which equals $168. That is the casino's expected win from this player before they get up from the table. Standard casino policy is to return between 15 and 35% of a player's Theo in the form of comps. At 15%, this player is worth $25 in complimentary room credit, dining credit, or show tickets. It does not matter whether they won or lost on this specific visit. The comp is based on expected mathematical value over time, not on actual outcomes. The psychology is deliberate. A free steak dinner triggers reciprocity. The player feels rewarded and is more likely to stay longer, return sooner, and raise their average bet size. The casino spends $25 to extend a relationship worth $168 per visit. They are not being generous. They are being precise. Now here is where casino ownership gets genuinely uncomfortable. Running a major integrated resort costs a staggering amount of money every single day before you collect $1 of revenue. Win Al Marjan Island, a resort currently under development in the United Arab Emirates, projects daily operating expenses of between $2 million and $2.4 million, and that figure excludes gaming taxes. The major integrated resorts in Macau operate on a daily baseline spend of approximately $2.5 million just to keep the lights on, the staff paid, and the floor running. Think about what that means. Before a single chip is wagered, before a single room is sold, before a single meal is ordered, you're spending $2 million to $2.5 million a day, every day, including the days when tourism is slow, when a typhoon keeps guests away, or when a global pandemic shuts your doors entirely. The cost centers driving this number are significant. Labor is the largest. Dealers, pit bosses, cage cashiers, hotel staff, restaurant teams, cleaning crews, security officers, and administrative employees, all working in shifts around the clock. Energy is the second largest. Maintaining comfortable temperatures across hundreds of thousands of square feet of continuously occupied space is enormously expensive. Gaming equipment leases add to the burden. Most slot machines are not owned outright, but leased under revenue-sharing agreements with manufacturers, meaning you are paying a percentage of every spin regardless of how your overall business is performing. And then there are the compliance costs. The internal audit teams, the anti-money laundering software, the legal staff, and the regulatory filing requirements that come with holding a gaming license. A bad week on the tables does not give you a break from any of this. The costs are fixed, the revenue is not. Because a casino moves more physical cash than almost any other type of business, it requires a security and surveillance infrastructure that has no parallel in most industries. The Bellagio in Las Vegas maintains over $150 million in physical cash inside the building at all times. That cash is moving constantly, across the cage, through the count room, to and from the tables, into chip racks. Every one of those transactions is a potential fraud event. Modern casino surveillance deploys thousands of high-definition cameras across the gaming floor, hotel lobbies, parking structures, and count rooms. These cameras feed into a central monitoring system staffed by trained surveillance analysts who watch live footage around the clock. Facial recognition software cross-references faces at entry doors against databases of known cheaters and self-excluded problem gamblers in real time. High-denomination chips are embedded with radio frequency identification, RFID, transmitters. Every chip can be tracked as it moves across the floor, verified as authentic when presented at the cage, and instantly voided if it is reported stolen. Artificial intelligence software monitors live table action and flags betting anomalies. Sudden bet size changes, unusual card handling, dealer-player behavioral patterns that suggest cheating or collusion. This infrastructure costs tens of millions of dollars to build and millions more to maintain annually. It is not optional. It is the tax you pay for handling this much liquidity in a public space. And even with all of it, sophisticated threats get through. In September of 2023, MGM Resorts was hit by a ransomware attack that started with a single phone call. Hackers called the company's internal IT help desk, impersonated an employee, and talked their way into network access credentials in 10 minutes. Once inside, they encrypted over 100 server systems across 29 MGM properties. Slot machines went offline. Hotel room keys stopped working. Reservation systems went dark. The attack lasted 10 days. MGM chose not to pay the $30 million ransom. The cost of the disruption lost gaming and hotel revenue, technology cleanup, legal fees, and a class action settlement with affected customers, totaled approximately $145 million. Even when your casino is full, your revenue gets aggressively taxed before it reaches your bottom line. Gaming taxes are levied directly on gross gaming revenue, meaning the money is taxed before you pay staff, before you service debt, before you cover a single operating expense. In Macau, the effective gaming tax rate is approximately 40% of gross gaming revenue. Singapore operates a tiered system ranging from 8 to 22%, depending on the player category. Nevada, in contrast, has one of the most operator-friendly tax structures in the world, with a top marginal rate of 6.75% on monthly gross gaming revenue above $134,000. These differences are not trivial. They explain why casino companies make the capital allocation decisions they do. Low-tax Nevada allows operators to invest heavily in non-gaming amenities and build more modest hold rates. High-tax Macau demands massive volume and exceptional margins on every hand, and tax policy changes can destroy a business model overnight. In the United Kingdom, the government raised the remote gaming duty on online casinos from 21% to 40% effective April of 2026. Enten, the company that operates Ladbrokes and Coral, immediately announced the elimination of approximately 500 jobs worldwide, 2% of its global workforce. To offset the projected $200 million annual impact of the increase, the government did not change a single rule of any game. They changed one tax rate, and it forced one of the largest gambling companies in the world to start cutting staff. Here is a case study that explains exactly how a casino can fail even when everything about the concept seems right. The Revel Casino in Atlantic City opened in April of 2012. It cost $2.4 billion to build. It was a genuinely impressive facility, a massive non-gaming resort experience designed to attract a wealthier, younger demographic to Atlantic City. But the developers made a series of catastrophic strategic errors. They built a luxury experience in a market that runs on value. Atlantic City's core customer is a day tripper who wants buffet deals, accessible slot machines, and affordable packages. Revel offered celebrity chef restaurants and refused to build a buffet. The mismatch between product and market was fundamental. The casino floor was located on the third floor of the building, requiring guests to ride escalators from street level before they could gamble. In a market where the primary customer is often older and mobility sensitive, this layout drove people next door. Revel opened as a non-smoking casino in a market where smoking volume is strongly correlated with gambling volume, and the balance sheet was unsustainable from day one. The developers had borrowed $1.2 billion at high interest rates to complete construction after the 2008 financial crisis interrupted their original financing. Just to service that debt, Revel needed to generate a specific daily win threshold regardless of how the property was actually performing. It never hit that threshold. Within a year of opening, Revel filed for bankruptcy. It filed again 14 months later. In 2014, it was sold at auction for $82.4 million. $2.4 billion built it. $82.4 million bought it. That is the financial consequence of strategic misalignment combined with an unsustainable debt structure. The companies that survive in this industry do so because they stop thinking like casino operators and start thinking like diversified entertainment corporations. MGM Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, Wynn Resorts, and Las Vegas Sands each manage global portfolios that span multiple jurisdictions, multiple business lines, and multiple revenue models. MGM earns table game revenue in Las Vegas while simultaneously running the BetMGM digital sports betting app. Caesars operates the Caesars Palace brand while also generating revenue from Caesars Digital. Las Vegas Sands runs the Venetian in Las Vegas and massive integrated resorts in Singapore and Macau. These companies also execute a strategy called asset-light operations. Rather than owning the real estate they operate on, many of the largest casino companies have sold their physical properties to real estate investment trusts, companies like Vici Properties and Gaming and Leisure Properties, and then lease them back. This allows the casino operator to unlock the capital tied up in real estate, pay off debt or fund new development, and focus on operating the business rather than holding property on the balance sheet. It sounds clean, but it creates a massive fixed cost. Caesars Entertainment's major operating subsidiary committed to an annual lease payment of $635 million just to use the physical buildings its business occupies. That is a fixed obligation that must be paid regardless of whether revenue is strong or weak, regardless of recessions, regardless of pandemics. Scale and diversification are not protection against failure. They are risk management tools, and they can be overwhelmed. Start with the top-line revenue number, every dollar from gaming, hotel rooms, restaurants, entertainment, and parking. Now start subtracting. Direct operating costs come first: labor, food, energy, equipment leases, and supplies. What remains is property-level earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Then subtract the sovereign gaming tax, which in a place like Macau takes 40 cents of every gross gaming dollar before anything else is counted. What remains is corporate operating income. Then subtract the lease payments to the real estate trust, the interest on the debt borrowed to build the property, depreciation on the physical assets, and corporate income tax. What you are left with, net income, can be remarkably thin relative to the headline revenue numbers. A casino that generates $3 billion in total revenue might keep $100 to $200 million as net profit after all of these deductions. And in a bad year, a year with a major cyber attack, a high roller who runs hot, an unexpected tax increase, or a macroeconomic shock, that margin can evaporate entirely. The billion-dollar revenue number is real. The profit is what's left after everyone else takes their share first. A casino, when it works, is not a gambling operation. It is one of the most disciplined applications of mathematics, psychology, and hospitality management that exists in the commercial world. The house edge is real. Over millions of bets, the math is as close to a certainty as any business model gets. But the math does not pay for the $2 billion construction loan. The math does not convince the regulators to grant you a license. The math does not stop a hacker from walking through your network with a 10-minute phone call. And the math does not save you if you build a luxury product in a value market. The players in a casino are not gambling against the house. They are gambling against probability, and probability always wins. But the owners of the casino are gambling against something harder to calculate: capital markets, tax authorities, regulators, competitors, economic cycles, and their own strategic judgment. The biggest gamble inside a casino does not belong to the players. It belongs to the people who built the place and convinced themselves they knew how it would turn out.